I just want to say thank you to our members, those in participation today. Glad to have you here. It's your support and being a member that really helps us get a lot of this stuff, out there. So your support is truly appreciated. And again, I always say it, but I truly mean it. If there's anything I can do to assist you with your membership, or if you want to talk about benefits, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll get it posted in the chat here soon, my email address and a Calendly link too. That being said, if anybody wants to become a member, feel free to email me or use the Calendly link as well. I'd be happy to spend some time and show you some of the great benefits that come with membership, including access to our hemp hallway. And I can show you a quick walkthrough on what that looks like, and we can go into more detail about that. And then you'll see in the chat that I included a couple of links. We are the sponsor of the WAFBA Awards of Excellence this year at NOCO, and we are accepting nominations. So with that first link that I sent in the chat, you can nominate there. And there's more instructions on what those titles look like and what we're looking to capture with each of those awards. So feel free to nominate, sign on today. And then we are also doing tickets for the banquet dinner. And I put a link in there as well. So if you'd like to purchase tickets, just keep in mind that seating is limited. So if you'd like to join, make sure you get your tickets before they do sell out. So yeah, with that being said, that's it.
Yeah, and Joanne, I was just checking out the nominations that are coming in, and I'm really excited to see those. So if you want to nominate somebody, make sure you go ahead and capture that link and get that done, because those nominations are already rolling in.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you. So it's 3 after or 5 after 3. Wow, whatever time it is for you guys. I'm in a different time zone. My computer's all messed up. Anyways, I want to get started. I want to be respectful of our time. While you guys are on or in the room, be sure to stay on mute just to be respectful of the common Zoom rules. And then remember that if you want to change your screen around, you can. In your upper right-hand corner, you can change the view to speaker view, or you can actually grab a hold of the speakers, either Heather or Daniela, and then actually put them at the top so that you can see those who are actually speaking. So I'll turn it over to either Daniela or Heather. Daniela, I actually met you first. If you want to start, I'd love to introduce you. I'm thrilled to be working with these guys. They're incredibly brilliant. Got awesome backgrounds in the industry. So please ask questions. If you have anything that you'd like to go over, don't hesitate to reach out also. So go ahead, guys.
Okay. Can you hear me? I was on mute.
You got it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mandi, and for all of what you do, and to see familiar faces here. It's really nice. I am Dr. Daniela Vergara. I am cannabis scientist, I guess. I recently moved to New York State from Colorado. I've been working in cannabis since 2013. Cannabis in general, mostly on genomic research in Colorado and at CU Boulder. And then I moved to work at Cornell with the extension, with Cornell Extension, on one of the groups in extension, which is called Harvest New York, where we have a bunch of people working on many different things. And I am the hemp specialist, hemp and hops, actually. Which are, by the way, sister taxa. They diverged 25 million years ago, more or less. So, beer and weed. So I moved here to help the industry, so help farmers with their crop. That is my job. And so I've been doing a bunch of stuff that I want to show you a little bit. And I know that Heather is going to show about the stuff that she's been working on with the classes that she teaches. I don't know, Heather, do you want to go, or do you want me to show the stuff? How do you want to play this, Mandi?
Maybe both of you, if you want to go ahead and give yourself an intro, Heather, a little bit about what you're doing, and then kind of dive in. I know, Heather, you've got some slides to show kind of about what you offer and what you guys are working on.
Yeah, I'm happy to give an intro as
Awesome.
well. And then we can decide whether we want to continue down that path of the workforce development program that we've been working on here at Cornell. But I'm Dr. Heather Grab. I am also coming to you from Cornell University in New York, where it is very snowy right now. I've been working with hemp in many capacities, but my formal training is actually in entomology and crop protection, so more on the agronomic side. But a lot of my work recently has been with analytical techniques and also establishing partnerships with our education program with folks who are on the processing side of the industry, focused on industrial hemp, mostly on the fiber side. So I will maybe just leave it there. And do we want to go ahead?
Can you tell me a little bit more about what that program looks like, about your partnerships, especially on the industrial hemp processing?
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of our partnerships are trying to establish these collaborations between the research capacity expertise that we bring. So I think Jeremy was sharing earlier about this real need for research in so many areas, whether it's carbon sequestration or best practices for cultivation. So leveraging those great resources, including all the expertise that we have here, folks like Dr. Vergara, who is definitely an expert in cannabis. She, brings her expertise to the team. And then we work together with industry partners that host students, that may work with companies to answer questions that they have that are important to the broader industry. So I think I saw some familiar faces who joined us already, who we are already working with these kinds of student internship partnerships. So that's definitely something I can say about that. Hopefully that answered your question. But I think this is also a participatory event. So I don't know how you guys want to take questions. Do you do that in the chat or unmute?
We'll open up both. Daniela, will you mind giving a little bit of background more on what are some of the projects specifically you're working on, or your role now, and some of your background that may not even be necessarily attached with Cornell, but some of the things that you've been working on?
Yes, and I do have a little bit of an agenda of the things that I wanted to touch base on. I am going to share my screen and show you. I'm actually working on this PowerPoint presentation because I am co-organizing a meetup here in New York, which is actually in the town that I'm living. I'm living in this town called Canandaigua, and which is a really, really nice town. And I love the name. I should know this. I should know how to navigate PowerPoint. So this is my contact information for those of you who want it, although I know that we are all contacted through LinkedIn. And this is my website. And for this meetup, I'm going to show the work that I did at CU Boulder. And I run a nonprofit organization, the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, which I also want to talk a little bit about. And the Cannabis Genomic Research Initiative is the group that we have at CU Boulder, where I'm a co-founder, and now I'm part of the Cornell Cooperative Extension. I wanted to tell you guys, for the people in New York State, we have an agricultural expo, which is going to happen online. It was going to be in person, and I was super excited. But now, because of COVID, it's going to be online. It's going to be on February 28th and March 1st. I am not sure whether people from other parts of the US could join, but there is going to be a hemp. Yes. So Heather just said that, yes, that people so there is going to be a hemp. It's going to be 2 days, February 28th and March 1st. And it's mainly geared towards New York State. But I think that this information is relevant to everyone, right? We're going to be talking about diseases and production. And so I think that it is for the people that want to join, keep it in mind. We also partner with the USDA, and we are giving talks with the USDA. And these are really interesting talks about many different subjects related to hemp. And I want to clarify that hemp is anything that is below 0.3% THC. I am going to touch base a little bit about that, but Heather is talking as well. So Heather is talking on February 23rd, and there's a bunch of really good speakers, including, you know, Ethan Russo, and I am talking on April 20. So for 20, I know, I'm super excited. Please feel free to come. I am going to be talking about this paper, and this particular paper, and there's a reason why I chose that paper, but I'm not going to disclose it until that day. So I wanted to tell you guys about these talks, and I wanted to talk about the 0.3% THC, which this is work that I did at CU Boulder. This particular, I mean, we have done many different versions of this particular figure. In this figure, we have the genome of many different varieties of cannabis, right? So cannabis is the genus, and we have in cannabis many different strains, varieties. I mean, you can call them many different words. I think that variety and cultivar are still not correct. Actually, even though there's a lot of debate, I like the word strain because these are all hybrids, and we do not have inbreeding available for many of these. In hemp, we see it a little bit more. And what we see here is all of these little lines are a strain. Many of you can find something that you recognize. For example, Afghan Kush may be something that you recognize, or USO 31 may be a hemp variety that you recognize. And what we see here in this thread-like structure in the middle is the part of the genome that everyone shares. So it's like the ancestral part of the genome. The more related you are, so the closer you are in this graph, the more of the genome you share. So if I had, for example, me and my son, we would be in lines that are very close together to each other because we share a lot of our genome. So again, this thread-like structure is oh, Bill Outhouse is here. Oh. So anyway, so this thread-like structure is the part of the genome that is shared among everyone. So what we see here in blue, this blue cloud is one marijuana type, and this purple cloud is another marijuana type. Okay, so we call them, and this is again open for debate. We call them, these are the purple ones, we call them the broadleaves, and the blue ones, we call them the narrow leaves. And those are usually used in medical and recreational settings. Now, the ones that we see here in orange are the ones that are used in hemp. These are hemp fiber or oil. So what we can see here is that the fiber and the oil, they share more of the genome. They're more related to each other, right? They're closer to each other. That doesn't mean that the ones that have low THC are part of this group. As a matter of fact, many varieties that have low THC are actually low THC marijuana. So with all of that, what I want to say is that hemp, according to the government, to the legal regulations, that is low THC, that is not a biological grouping. It is really not that these individuals cluster together. So that arbitrary grouping is something that was decided legally by someone. That opens room for us, for example, to study plants that are on these medical and recreational groupings, right? So it's actually beneficial to us because it not only allows us to study the hemp that is traditional hemp, you know, the ones that are in the fiber and grain category, but it opens a little bit more room to study other varieties. So that definition is actually beneficial. Now, I do think that education is crucial because you need to understand these differences, right? You need to understand how the plant is grown, the purpose. And I think that Heather really knows that well, you know, like how for the purpose and the phenotypes of the plants they are very different. Like the phenotype, the physical characteristics of the plants are very different depending on the use. So I wanted to make this a preamble on why I think that this is really important. Now I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Oh, the last part that I wanted to mention is that right now, my work at Cornell, I am working on a hemp production manual and an introduction of hemp cultivation manual, and where we're putting a bunch of information that I found in websites, and I can show you the websites. I found a bunch of information here and there, and we're compiling that, and we're putting information that is made by students as well. So all of that we're putting together in a manual that we hope to have a first draft by the summer, by the end of the summer. So I'm gonna let Heather speak, or if people have questions, and then afterwards I can also show you some websites that I wanted to point to you.
You're awesome. That was good for saying earlier that you weren't sure you were going to have a presentation. That was pretty good.
I've talked about it before, as you can tell.
First day, I can tell.
I think we should maybe open it up for discussion with Daniela, since that was like it was a lot of information that she shared, that it's probably best to get those questions in while all of the, those phylogenetic relationships are still fresh in our minds.
Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add?
Hello, everyone. I have a question. My name is Nicole Jai, and I manage hemp farms in upstate New York. Daniela, Dr. Daniela, that was amazing. I really appreciate your illustration of what's going on in this industry. And it's important that we have these kind of meetings, because I feel like it's a new thing in New York, and other places have a lot more experience in growing it, even though the climate in New York is a little different. I was interested about pollen drift because I have multiple farms. So my objective, in this industry, not knowing when recreational would become legal, was to be in a position to be able to grow for grain fiber, CBD, and also adult use marijuana. But I'm concerned about pollen drift. That is a big concern of mine right now.
I would also be concerned. Yeah, I think it's a concern. The only thing that I can tell you is, if you're growing for flower, right? If you're growing for flower for either CBD or any other cannabinoid, just grow it far away from grain or fiber, and grow it far away from males. I think that is going to be a big concern, especially in New York State. Maybe we're going to be able to grow for flower, and maybe even for high THC outdoors. And I don't know how that's going to happen, because it's wind pollinated. So if it's a wind pollinated plant, it can travel anywhere. So I honestly don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, I have grown my fiber miles away, but I'm concerned about other farmers. Now that it's legal, everyone's going to be planting. I mean, I don't know if you know a lot about New York and the history of New Yorkers, but everyone and their mother is going to have, if it's not, even if it's just the minimum 12 plants that everyone's going to be planting. So it's not me, because I know to separate my fiber from my CBD growing, and that, but I'm really concerned about other growers.
I think that is very kind of you. I think that people should be concerned in general. Everyone should be concerned about pollen. And maybe what you could do, is, if you're growing for grain, you want males or you want hermaphrodites, period, right? You want pollination. If you're growing for fiber, for flower, you don't want pollination. So if you want to avoid pollination for your flowers, maybe you can get one of those bags and put them on top of your female flowers. That may help. I don't know if there are bags made specially for hemp, because some of these are made for particular crops, but that may help. but honestly, I don't know what to tell you. And, you know, I know that a lot of people are growing in New York State right now. And the thing, you know, coming from Colorado, in Colorado, it was different because for flower, for THC, it was required to grow indoor. If you're growing for high THC, if you're growing marijuana, basically, you have to grow it indoor. Now, if for people, we can ask, I know that there's Colorado farmers here, and we can ask them whether what do they do with their CBD, and if there's males around, how do they work with it?
It's Dr. Madi, I saw your mic was off, but from what we see and hear a lot is it's indoor, right? A lot of it is indoor cultivation compared to outdoor cultivation, or at least, you know, quite a ways away, because that is obviously how far does it drift. Dr. Madi, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I have a question for Daniela. I was reading your paper, which is really excellent paper that you published a few years ago. And you could educate me. I'm not a plant geneticist. It's about the connection between the phenotype or the characteristic, physical characteristic of the plant and the chemical, especially THC concentration. Because a lot of people, they could use these characteristics to identify the chemical compounds or the concentration of THC in certain plants. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, but I know which paper. That's the paper that I'm gonna be talking about on 420. So I think it's the other way around. I think that what we found is especially important for the marijuana industry, where you can see people connecting traits that do not have any relationship. So they can tell you, okay, this plant has high THC because it has broad leaves, or this plant has high CBD because it's tall. And what we found is that all of these traits are independent to each other. And the example that I give is, for example, you cannot tell whether someone is blonde by the color of their eyes, right? So you cannot say, okay, you have blue eyes, therefore you are blonde, right? There's people that have blue eyes that are brunette. So those two traits are completely independent to each other. And, you know, you're a biologist, but for those biologists in the room, recombination, right? Recombination is this thing that happens during sexual reproduction, where all of these traits are kind of shuffled, you know, like imagine a deck of cards, you're shuffling these traits together, and you then have all of these traits that are different. And that's why my brother and I are different from each other, right? And you're not exactly the same as your sibling, right? And I think that that's important, because that means that all of these traits can be first independently inherited, and second, you can make varieties that are completely different from each other. And you cannot, so first you cannot draw conclusions from one trait. The fact that the plant is tall doesn't mean that it has broad leaves, or the plant is short doesn't mean that it has high THC. And second, you can make new varieties that are not yet there, and you can put traits together that have never maybe been together before. Particularly, and that is not in that paper, but that is in another paper, which was published last year, which is actually talking about the governmental cannabis, which is very bad, and it has poor variety, and it has very limited genomic diversity, which is something that we knew, but now we know it with error bars and with graphs. In that paper, we actually talk about the genetic diversity that we find in cannabis, and the amount of genetic diversity, the amount of genomic diversity, which is about 2 or 3 times as much as the diversity that we find in humans. So if you picture 3 times as much the genetic diversity that we find in humans, there are going to be a bunch of different combinations that we're going to be able to make with all of these plants if we have good breeding, right? If we have good breeding, we're going to be able to make a bunch of different things that have not yet maybe been done before. And I think that that is the importance of that paper, that paper that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I work in extension too, and you are working extension as well as part of your job. If you put your extension hat, and if you want to advise a farmer how to select or how to use certain varieties and to be a predictor for achieving certain THC, what's your approach to that? How you put it into application or practical advice to producer?
Wow, that's a hard question. Okay, so I know
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just to think about it.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm gonna answer may be a little dumb. But you know, I think first, I think that those THC numbers are arbitrary and are unfair. I don't know if we're right now at a time where we can still fight for that, because when you are growing hemp for fiber or where you are growing it for grain, I think it is unfair that they are testing you on THC, right? It's like I am a swimmer and they're testing me on running. That is unfair. That is really unfair, and that puts all of the pressure on the farmer. And it was a law that was done without asking me. Why didn't they ask me that question before they made the law? So anyway, so so first, and so now that the law is in place and you have to abide to the law, period, I think it depends a lot on the timing of your crop. So I would base it on timing, right? Because even though many of the hemp strains for fiber or for grain, they can turn a little hot, right? Many of them do not and should not, right? Due to the genetics, they should have a truncated THC gene. They usually have a complete CBD gene, but they should have a truncated THC gene. So many of them should not turn hot. However, you know, the genetics are complicated of these genes because it's an additive effect, right? It's a gene with major effects but it's all additive effects between all of this cluster of genes that are found in the same region of the genome. However, I would put it more on the timing. If you know that it's gonna turn hot around this time, harvest before. Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
I think this speaks a lot, Dr. Mandi, to our seed trials and,
Right.
you know, yeah, it's some good information on scale. Yeah, so I could ask all kinds of questions because I love diving into this stuff, and it's a little bit, I can geek out on it. I know some of us can. Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to chime in on? If you do, don't hesitate to raise your hand or pipe in. Heather, would you like to show yours? Bill, I saw your camera come on. Did you have anything you wanted to add? You're good? Good to see you. Heather, yeah.
Oh, you know what? I see there is a question, so we can definitely start with that one while I get these slides in order.
Michael, go ahead. I see you.
Hi, just I mean, it's awesome to hear these New Yorkers here, people that I know, Nicole and the extension here. I'm actually right outside of Canada, where I'm from usually, and some really amazing things that kind of happen in the education sector for me, because I created a new education system in 2011, and it honestly required a blockchain. And so I partnered with HempCoin, and we are creating this educational program. We have a 144-hour credit hour apprentice program we're putting together, and we're creating an educational platform for secondary and primary education as well. So how do you see education playing a huge role in both the social equity play in New York and many other states to bring them into being able to participate in a meaningful way, and at the same time educate the community? Like from Cornell's perspective, or the people, these speakers' perspectives, how do you see the integration of education being a core part of what many of these states are doing with marijuana and social equity reconciliation? How do you see that play out in a meaningful way?
I can start off by answering that question, Michael, and then I'll pass it over to Daniela to add any thoughts that she has. But I think you raised a critical point. And for those who aren't in New York State, just to give you a little bit of the background context that has come up, we are currently in the process of establishing a legal adult use recreational market in our state. So we have had hemp production here for a number of years, and our state did vote on a measure that passed to allow for this adult use market. But right now we're in this period where the Office of Cannabis Management, that's going to regulate that market, is establishing all of the specific rules and regulations that participants in that industry will need to follow. And we've been, I think, among the most progressive states in the US in terms of the policies that were included, really strong social and economic equity initiatives that are part of that. So one that was sort of alluded to earlier is this opportunity for everyone in the state to home grow, which I think is a very positive social equity position, but does of course raise these concerns about, like, what if my neighbor bought some seeds online from some person they don't know about, what it means to have a male plant in your cultivation. And I think that speaks to Michael's point about this need for education that's out there. And Cornell certainly has entered this space, but offering the degree program that I'm going to share with you, which is really a more traditional education program when we think about, cannabis cultivation practices. So this is a program for folks who really want to dig deep on the science of the plant and also enter into the industry at maybe more of a management level. And I think there's a lot of potential for folks to enter our program in a social equity pathway. I've been really excited about the opportunity to engage with industry sponsors who also are feeling this urge to, have these social equity positions as well, in ways that we together can partner to support students who would come and work with us at Cornell in our program, and then move right into industry in a way where they're really prepared to hit the ground running. So if there's anybody on the call who wants to continue that conversation with me in further detail, I would be happy to have that. But I think also there's a really important role for cooperative extension services. And so I'll let Daniela speak more about that public mandate that Cornell and other universities with extension programs have.
I'll talk after your slides.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So Daniela will share more about what Cornell Cooperative Extension is doing to more publicly make available the information that experts like herself are generating. But for now, I will transition into talking about our program that we developed really as a response to the needs of the industry to have a very well-trained workforce that understands the entire supply chain. So whether it's things about setting up a site for cultivation or processing, understanding the regulatory framework, understanding those key decisions around cultivar selection that can be so critical, all the way through processing, product development, and marketing decisions along the way. So our program was developed to help to create that, pool of professionals who are out there and ready to engage with the hemp industry. We offer students really access to state-of-the-art facilities as well as experts at our Cornell and Agritech campuses, where they have a close mentoring relationship with particular faculty members in our program. So this is a 1-year program, and it's really geared towards folks who want to get into the industry right away. So this is not a graduate degree program for folks who are going to go on to become academics, but it's really for students that you may consider hiring into your own organizations, or sending folks who are already within your organizations to engage with this kind of a program. It's incredibly hands-on during that 1-year period on campus, but also fairly course intensive. So students are paired with a faculty mentor in the area of their expertise. So for example, Daniela and I work together to co-advise students that are contributing to that production manual that she mentioned earlier. There are even collaborators who are on the call today who we're working with to mentor students in best practices for fiber production, for example. And in addition to those mentoring relationships, students do about 30 hours of credit coursework. So there's quite a lot in there. And this all results in an accredited degree from Cornell. So we do require that folks have a bachelor's degree before they come to the program. And again, it's more for students that have a little bit of science, but are pretty sure that they want to move into a career within the hemp or cannabis industry. So in addition to myself and Daniela, there's a range of other faculty experts that participate in this program that cover a wide variety of topics, from science communication to controlled environment agriculture, pathology, breeding, genetics, pharmacology, analytical chemistry, seed science, weed science, microbiology, and food science. We really cover the full spectrum. And we've developed a suite of classes that are specific to cannabis and hemp cultivation and processing. So students start out taking 2 courses on that topic in the fall semester. One broadly on how business practices and regulations and looking at different industry trends over time. They also take the hemp production systems course with me and design an enterprise production system complete from genetics selection all the way through an enterprise budget plan for whatever production system they're interested in. They also take in the spring semester a course specific to breeding and genetics, as well as classes on pharmacology, and then a hands-on lab with myself focused on hemp processing. So they also have access to all of the amazing resources at Cornell, including courses in many other areas. Cornell has fantastic entrepreneurship programs, an excellent hotel school for those who are interested in the retail side or hospitality. Our food science program is among the best in the country for those who are interested in developing hemp-based food products. So students can select from a broad array of other courses to fill in all the rest of their credit hours in this program. And of course, they get to use for their capstone projects and in our class all of the excellent greenhouse, growth chambers, research farms, of which we have hundreds of acres, and lab spaces on campus. We have a food processing pilot plant at our research station in Geneva, the Agritech campus here, with a full grain processing line, everything from dehulling all the way through oil pressing. And of course, an area that has received, I think, a lot of attention recently, at least in New York State, is making sure that we have folks in the industry who are well prepared to meet all of the regulatory testing demand that will be generated through our adult use market, but also the demands of our industrial hemp market in terms of the analytical side of things. So where I'm really excited to make some connections here today is with folks who may want to collaborate with us on our courses, but also in particular to reach out to folks who may want to engage with students in our program in the development of their capstone projects. So these are really broad in their structure, but also provide an opportunity for students to sort of identify an area that they're excited about working on, but that also has a lot of value for the industry. So solving a particular question that an industry stakeholder might have about the, whatever process that they are interested in, whether that's cultivation or processing all the way through product development. A couple examples of projects that we've had recently include one by Tony Baracco, who is now working at the USDA Hemp Germplasm Collection, who did an evaluation of challenges and opportunities for developing the fiber industry in the Northeast. And he actually did that in partnership with South Hemp Techno, which is a company based in Italy, and had the opportunity to travel to Italy as part of that capstone project and work with them to see how they have developed their supply chain for fiber processing. I've also had students who have worked with me in collaboration with a company called Orange Photonics. So that's a testing company that provides a portable HPLC system, which is a great option for growers who are worried about when their crops may be approaching that upper limit in terms of the threshold of 0.3% that is point of use. So this is a portable machine that growers can take with them to their fields or to their grow sites and take a small sample and understand where their plants are at very quickly in just a matter of minutes. So we worked with Orange Photonics and one of our students, Katie Mazer, to develop a new application for their existing platform that would allow us to know the chemotype of a plant. So whether it's going to be a high THC or a high CBD, or maybe even a cannabinoid neutral, so a deficient plant at a very early stage in development. And then other students have worked on projects that are more about the physiology of the plant. So Andre Galich worked with a grower from Vermont who had made some interesting observations about frost tolerance among different cultivars in their farm. And so he did several follow-up experiments to help us understand how climatic events like these early season frosts might impact the development of hemp. So I'm super excited about opportunities to work with folks who are here in different areas of the industry and students in our program. We've had students who have gone on to diverse different careers within the industry so far. And I think I will sort of leave it here for now, but just with the note that if there is someone who may be interested in applying to this program, that we are currently accepting applications for our fall 2022 cohort. So that's the group that will start with us in fall 2022. And those are due on February 15th, but it's not, there's some opportunity. I know we're approaching that date really rapidly. So please let me know if you know someone or if you yourself are interested. And then of course, as we are bringing in this new cohort of students, I'm really excited about making sure that we can pair them with industry partners who may have an overlap in interest. So that's kind of all I have. Feel free to ask questions at any moment.
So yeah, if anybody wants to ask questions, I actually am curious. I feel like this is a perfect transition into what Daniela had for resources that she has available. You want to share what you've got?
I'm sorry, this is Nicole, Mandy. I didn't mean to cut you off. but I'm definitely interested in taking the course. And someone raised a question about getting around the bachelor requirement, because in my community, it's not a lot of people that have college educations, much less a bachelor's degree. So how would we combat that issue? You know, that was something that I was concerned about. I have a master's, but everyone is not like me. I just love school. So, you know, I'm so eager to even do this program. I'm just, you know, but everyone is not in that position. And the other thing is, they may not even be in the position, but they may not have the ability to grasp, you know, something in the syllabus to be able to get, you know, through the curriculum part of the program. You know, the hands-on experience they have, you know, but how do we combat the issues of the literacy maybe, you know?
So Nicole, I think you raised two super important points. One about how we can support students into a pathway to be successful in the program, which I will take first. And one option that's available to students who do not already have a bachelor's degree is that they could actually take all of these courses in a bachelor's degree program at Cornell, and I would encourage them to take that route. So all of these classes are available through that bachelor's degree pipeline. And there's, of course, a whole other suite of resources that are available to support undergraduate students from communities that have been potentially impacted by the war on drugs to access our educational programs at Cornell. And I'd be happy to connect you with those if you would like. So that's one. And then the second is, what happens if there's a student who comes in and maybe they have no background at all in breeding and genetics? How were they supported through that program? And I think, to be honest, I've taken almost every one of the courses that we offer here, just, you know, to be able to be sure that I've gotten the full experience and can advise students about what makes sense for them. So one is that you have a really strong mentor relationship, both with industry partners who can answer really important questions and know right now about what's happening on the ground, but also with your faculty mentors who are there to guide you and support you through all of these really different aspects, whether, you know, we have students who are coming to our program that actually, you know, they have a background in real estate or in finance, and they've never grown a plant in their life. So we try to recognize that students in our program, independent of the privilege and advantages that they may have had, are all coming with very different experiences. And so we try to make a program that's really tied to their particular interests, but at the same time is accessible to everyone who's in the program.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate it.
I have a question real quick about your capstone. Can you just dive into a little bit on basic level for those that don't understand what that program is and what benefits are?
Sure. So this is a master's degree, but it's not the same as a research track master's degree, where a student might set out to create or generate some new knowledge, often resulting in a peer-reviewed publication. So, you know, sort of like the data that Daniela shared with us there. So this is a little bit different in that we really would like to have students engage with much more applied problems. So a student might pick something, for example, like we have students that are interested in cultivation, and there they might dig into all of that knowledge that exists with the guidance of faculty members like Daniela and myself to help them understand that knowledge and then to translate that knowledge for other folks who may not have the opportunity to come to Cornell and participate in our program, but need to know all of these really important scientific advances. So that's sort of one. It's a hard to describe thing because it is so flexible in terms of how it's set up, but we do that with the intention of, you know, allowing students to have a lot of flexibility and to have the opportunity to make these really important connections with our industry partners.
Awesome. Thank you. Mandi, did you have other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple comments and questions. I like the idea of this program because it's structured in a way to provide really good scientific background for the students. But my observation, 30 credits, it's really difficult to accomplish in 1 year for non-thesis students. That's one. Two, when you look at the structure of the courses, I didn't see any soil courses or fertility courses included, which is most of these students, they're going to deal with the real world. You select the right soil, the right fertility program. They're just observation for you to reflect on it. So from that perspective, I think the program is a great idea to look into another venue, which is the lady raised the question about non-degree involved, which is the certificate program. It doesn't have to be fully concentrated in that large, wide number of courses, but just the basic to give them a certificate, just like apprentice program. And that's been done in different universities. And the third comment, it goes to the availability of this course for people who they are outside New York. And that's kind of distance education program, because not every, seems to me it has to be resident students to do that work. But if you want to encourage the industry to be part of that experience, to provide that platform, and they do their work in their own industry or experiment in their own state, just an idea is we have that at Iowa State University, not about hemp, but we call it Master of Agronomy program. That's students, even internationally, involved in it. So that might expand your program to go way beyond just New York.
Thanks for that observation, Madi. I think to one of your earlier points, there's a whole selection of other courses that students can take. And yes, getting 30 credit hours done in just 2 short semesters is challenging. That's sort of the normal undergraduate course load that students are undertaking. So we do, offer a lot of support to students to make sure that they are successful in getting those credit hours completed, while at the same time planning, developing, and executing on their independent research projects. And so we do have a very much hands-on curriculum here at the Ithaca campus, but one option that we do provide is through our Cornell platform. So we're just beginning to translate many of these same hemp courses that we offer, as well as other courses in different plant science areas, onto this distance learning online platform. And one of the first ones to go up that I would encourage many of you to check out is our hemp breeding and genetics classes that were developed by Dr. Larry Smart and are now offered online through the Cornell platform for folks who are not interested in getting a degree and going back to school full time, but still want to have access to this information. So you would still get a certificate for completing those courses, and you can really mix and match depending on your particular area of interest using that Cornell online platform.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great questions, you guys. If you guys have anything else, don't hesitate to chime in. Daniela?
Yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen again. Something that I also have, because of these disconnections between the public and what we know, I run a nonprofit organization, as I said in the beginning, the Agricultural Genomics Foundation. We have 2 important things in the Agricultural Genomics Foundation. One is a podcast that I highly recommend, run by one of the board members, Emily Feda, who is a financial analyst in the cannabis industry. We also have courses that we teach at CU Boulder. This course, Modern Cannabis Science, is co-taught by myself and another of the board members, Anna Schwabi. This is through continuing ed, so anyone can take this course. We recommend that people know some biology to take this course, and it's of course taught by 2 biologists, so it's biology heavy. But anyone can take this course, and it's through continuing education at CU Boulder, and we teach it every semester, and we taught it, for example, this winter semester. Another thing, and this is coming through someone that asked a question in the chat, I started a collaboration with Terpenes and Testing magazine, and I am publishing a writing a month with them. One of the writings is going to be on multi-purpose hemp, because someone asked that question, and I do think that it's possible. And as a matter of fact, there is multi-purpose hemp, you know, at least dual purpose for fiber and for grain. But I do have my doubts about flour. Maybe flour and fiber could be possible, but I do have my doubts. But anyway, there's going to be a writing regarding that. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we are starting a professional meetup here in New York. It's also going to have be transmitted through Zoom. So if you're not in New York State, it's going to be here in Canandaigua next Thursday, so a week from today. But if you are not in New York State, you can reach us through Zoom. And I think that Dr. Madi and Mandi are going to be talking on May 18th or May 14th? I don't remember, but so that's going to be through Zoom anyway, but we will still meet in person, and we would have a screen where they would talk about it. So this is happening, and the idea is to educate the public about the hemp and the marijuana industry. And the last thing that I wanted to show is our website at Cornell. We have a website where we have a bunch of different information. There is someone that we have, for example, the handouts from the previous hemp days. Mandi and Dr. Madi are going to be also involved, hopefully, in the next hemp day in August 2022. And if you navigate this page, which I found it a little bit hard to navigate, but there is a lot of really good information. And that's why I am trying to put the information that we have in this website in our hemp manual, that it's going to be available by August 2022 when Mandi and Dr. Madi have their talk at our hemp day. I know that this was a lot of information, but I really recommend you to look at these websites. I can put it in the chat. The Agricultural Genomics Foundation, my nonprofit, is agriculturalgenomics.org. And we're in a process of shifting things a little bit. So this is a little bit old, but keep patience. Again, the course that we have through continuing ed that is produced by the Agricultural Genomics Foundation is called Modern Cannabis Science. Our writings with terpenes and testing, or my writings with terpenes and testings. This first one was on cannabis and sex and the sex chromosomes. Our New York meetup, and the Cornell website. So I can put all of these links in the chat so that you guys have them.
That's awesome. Are there any questions? Drew, I don't know if you have any questions. Anybody else? Bridget, I don't know if you got your question answered. I saw that there was a question. You want to go ahead and ask?
Yeah, my question was just about CBG. So I'm growing hemp in Australia under license, and I was really interested in, say, the briefings from Ethan Russo about the power of CBG and how, I think from what I've read, and forgive me if I have this wrong, you can harvest the flower, say 4 weeks into a 6-week cycle and hopefully obtain CBG. I was very interested in this, obviously also growing, I think I'm growing PR13 and pheromone here in Australia. I wanted to know, in relation to CBG, are there specific strains of hemp that are good, or is CBG as a mother cannabinoid and naturally occurring across all of the hemp plants? I'm sorry if that's a basic question.
It's a great question. There are hemp strains that are good for CBG. Actually, I am going to be writing about CBG with terpenes and testing the problem. I've already written this because I wrote all of this during the summer. And I am publishing as I go. So I already wrote them, but they're not out there, and they're gonna be, it's gonna be this year. CBG, yes, you're right, it's the precursor molecule. What that means is that there are other genes that come afterwards. And if you have a truncated gene, means that it's a gene that is non-functional. It's kind of incomplete. If you have a truncated version of the THC gene and the CBD gene and the CBC gene, which are the genes that come afterwards, then you will accumulate more CBG. So there are some hemp strains, like low THC marijuana, really, that can accumulate more CBG because they have these incomplete versions of these genes downstream. And there are those strains, and I think that one of the company that produces them here in the US, Oregon CBD, has high CBG strains. I think that there's another company that also produces high CBG strains, but yes, there are those varieties are available. And I would be, if you grow them in Australia, please let me know how that goes. I'll be super curious about your experience.
Well, in another part of my life, I do a lot of natural medicine work, particularly with bees and apitherapy. And I was working with a woman with stage 4 breast cancer last week, and offering her apitherapy medicine and cannabis medicine. And I was explaining to her about CBG, but as you know, it's a tough call because it's not known. So here am I confessing all to everyone here. I made some, what I hope is CBG medicine in this manner, and gave it to her. But obviously at her stage of cancer, everything is experimental, and she will take anything she can get. But I was just really curious to see, if I'm on the right track, because I don't have good access to labs, and it's very challenging in Australia with the licensing, as you can imagine. We're late to the party on cannabis and cannabis medicine here, so everything is experimental.
I saw your finger shake, Daniela.
Yeah, everywhere it's experimental, and I don't think Australia is late to the party. I think that actually Australia has really good products. Australia is producing really good medicine. I think that there's a company that's producing really good medicine for sleep. Actually, that is one of the podcasts from AGF, the nonprofit, is this gentleman from Australia that has a company that is producing sleeping drugs. So I recommend it again. And a fellow Australian, I know that Australia is really big. But anyway, I think that there's a lot of good things happening there. And I don't think that you're late to the party. I don't think anyone is late to the party. I mean, but yeah, I think that you should look into these CBG strains, and everything is experimental. We're all experimenting with this, I think.
It's just so crazy with the licensing. We're allowed to have, I think, under 1% THC in our crops under license, and we have to submit flowers to be tested to make sure they're not hot. Yeah. But I find this quite fascinating that now, as say with Ethan Russo's briefings on CBG, the science is way ahead of the law, of course. And I don't think they realize that we can all grow CBG in low THC crops, which I find just fascinating. So I don't know if the genie's quite out of the bottle yet with people understanding that. What do you think?
Regarding?
Do you think it's becoming well known that as hemp growers, we can be growing CBG?
And all of the other compounds. And that's the beauty of cannabis. I think that there's so many different compounds, right? It's not one compound, but it's a mixture in different ratios in different plants. So all of them. And not only that, but the terpenes as well, right? And how are you producing them? Why are you producing them? When are you producing them? How do you increase them? Can you increase them? Is there a trade-off to increasing them? Right? We know that there is a trade-off to increasing CBD, and that is that you come with THC, which makes sense, right? biologically, it's like makes sense. So I think that is, it's happening. I don't think that the genie is still out of the bottle. You know, it's not like alcohol or tobacco, but we're getting there. And I think that we will get there slowly, but surely. I mean, look at the US. You know, I was in Colorado in 2014, you know, legal cannabis and it's like, oh, it's going to legalize federally tomorrow. And here we are years later. And where is it? So I think that we are getting there, but we need a lot of us, and we need like platforms like this one in order to understand the importance and the difference between the plant, right? Like I know that Mandi is really into fiber right now, but I know that she really understands also the marijuana industry, and she's completely cognizant that it's the same plant. And so we need to educate the public about it, but yeah.
Yes. Drew, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add. Drew's involved on our research committee as well, and at both the fiber and cannabinoid side. So yeah, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
And just put myself in my shop instead of in a
I saw that out of your field, just real quick, stepped inside.
So I went through the certified GHA program. So it was very focused in Humboldt, legacy, terroir, and really understanding that cannabis is a combination of the cultivar. So what is it that you're growing? The cultivator, who is growing it? And then the methodology, how do you grow it? And really recognizing that you could take the same cultivar and grow it indoor, greenhouse, light depth, outdoor, how you feed it, what you do with it. You can manipulate it to really meet the market demand, whether that's for a smokable, which, you know, is why you'd want to manipulate that, but also, you know, for an oil. So there's different ways to approach bringing it to market, and terpenes, which I think are highly overlooked. Also realizing it's cannabis, it wants to produce THC. So this 0.3, you know, arbitrary number is really unfortunate for the industry. And I think to a lot of extent is why it's resulted in this Delta 8 kind of fiasco, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. But my question or curiosity is, when you're educating, are you talking about kind of how to produce the plant to meet market demand? And how do you get around the FDA in its requirement that you can't make any claims? So it doesn't help with sleep, and it won't help with your anxiety, and it doesn't help with inflammation. Like, how do you kind of teach the plant also to be able to bring it to market, but then how to play in these confined rules? It's kind of really an unfortunate situation we're in, but just kind of some thoughts and then kind of general questions, I guess.
I can start off on that one and then pass it over to Daniela. So we walk this line all the time as a federally funded institution that cannot legally work with high THC cannabis, but acknowledging also that many of our students are going to go on to careers within that segment of the industry. So this is something we are very, very much aware of. It touches all aspects, including, you know, I mentioned that we have an excellent food science program here. And FDA also maintains that cannabinoids cannot be included in food and beverage products, despite New York State's opposing regulation to that promotes the inclusion of those molecules into food and beverage. So we do certainly walk that line. And I think the approach that I have taken is to be very clear about what the science supports. So when we're talking about the pharmacological aspects of any cannabinoid molecule in class, we base that discussion in what the science has supported in terms of the actions of particular molecules. And of course, we recognize that our students may go out and pursue careers where they are engaging and interacting with the public. So we're also making sure that they are very aware of this regulatory framework that we all need to operate within. So I'm also kind of interested to hear Daniela's perspective on that, having worked with so many growers in this space, and how she tackles that.
So right now here in New York, because hemp is legal, I can go to hemp grows, right? And I'm encouraged to touch the plant during my working hours and which is the reason why I came here from Colorado, because Colorado, despite having legal marijuana industry, I was not allowed to touch any plant during my working hours, even if, and then it changed through hemp, but then, I didn't have that possibility. At CU, I didn't have the possibilities of working with the plants that we do work here at Cornell. And that was great because I was doing genomics anyway, right? I was doing bioinformatics. So once you sequence a genome and you have all of the DNA, you just need to do bioinformatic work and statistics. So I didn't really, like all of my work that I did with the phenotype, with measuring physical characteristics of the plant, was done through other people. For example, Ben Holmes from Centennial Seeds, for those of you who know him, he was part of my work. Lucas, estoy en una reunión, por favor. Sorry, my kid is around. So now it's easier for me, and I agree completely with what Heather just said, that that you need to make sure to work with the sciences and to make sure that you tell people honestly and students honestly, this is what we can do and this is what we cannot do. And this is what the science says, and this is what we know, right? And make sure about it. There was something that Drew said that I thought that was weird, but I don't remember. You were talking about the terpenes, and I was like, but anyway, I do think that honesty and having in hand the laws and the regulations is really important.
So
1 second.
yeah, as it related to terpenes, it was just the value and the benefit of them. But 95% of cannabis is made up of myrcene, caryophyllene, pinene, limonene, and terpinolene. So there's really 5. But then when you get into the nuance between the fruit, the fuel, the floral, and the earthy different aromas, I mean, it's a super complex plant. And the research is critical. And I'm so glad that we can hopefully do more. I mean, OSU, you just saw, did some research recently as it related to COVID with CBD and CBGA. And to Bridget, if you want Matterhorn CBG, I distribute that genetic, which is another one, so feel free to reach out. But there's a lot about this plant we have yet to learn. It's pretty amazing and exciting stuff.
Awesome. Good questions.
So regarding that, I am going to put a paper that we had accepted in the chat with the people from Leafly. And what we did in that research is that we analyzed the chemotypes from strains that are available on dispensaries in 6 different states. I was very positively surprised by this analysis because it showed that these different testing facilities in different states, like Florida, Michigan, Oregon, California, they were very consistent, and that shows to me the quality that the cannabis industry is producing despite having legal hurdles, right? Despite not having legality, still these companies are very consistent to each other without having anyone that is regulating them and that is looking, how are you testing? When are you testing? The results are very consistent. So that was very interesting to me. And besides that, the paper has beautiful figures, I think, and I mostly worked on the figures, so it has beautiful figures. So and so I know I spend a lot of time on those figures. So I highly recommend it. And another thing that it shows to me is that Leafly, being a platform where a lot of people, a highly trafficked platform, it has done a really good job at partnering with very reliable companies like this company. I wasn't expecting, I came to the cannabis industry with a lot of skepticism. I didn't believe that the plant produced all of those compounds until I analyzed the data. For me, it was like, oh, this is really, until I analyzed the data and it's like, oh yeah, this is for real. And so this was another one that was like, oh, all of these testing facilities, and that's not true. There are many reliable testing facilities. So I recommend that paper.
That was great. Great share. Okay, well, we're at it's 4:15 my time, or 6:15 my time, 4:15 on my computer. We're over an hour now. I want to be respectful of time. Heather, do you have anything that you want to add before we sign off? And Danielle, anything else you also?
It's been a pleasure to have the opportunity to share what we've been working on here at Cornell with everyone who's on the call today. I saw that there was a bunch of activity in the chat that didn't always get addressed verbally, so I did try to get some responses in there. But if anyone would like to follow up on those conversations over email, you can reach me at heathergrab, so just my name all together, one word, at cornell.edu.
Perfect. Okay, Daniela, anything for you?
Anything for me?
Anything else
think
to close off? Sorry.
I mean, Mandi, I love what you're doing. We'll always keep in touch. Like we talk like every week about something different. I recommend to follow up with this website. Many of the questions, for example, Drew, the questions that we were talking about, the cannabinoids and the terpenes, I'm going to be writing about this with terpene and testing. So I'm excited about that because I had all of this information that I needed to say, and they are giving me a platform. So I'm really excited. Please visit the Agricultural Genomics Foundation, agriculturalgenomics.org. If you can, take the course, Modern Cannabis Science. Anna Schwabi is another powerhouse. Awesome. I know, yeah, she's awesome. And yeah, visit our Cornell website, and I am going to be, as soon as we have the version of the manual, which is going to be online as well, I am going to be bugging Mandi and sending that information in every single social media platform. So you'll see it somewhere. And then again, thank you very much. And then I did put my email, right? dv255@cornell.edu. And then if you take the Colorado course, then my email in Colorado is daniela.vergara@colorado.edu. So yeah.
Cool. Is that going in the chat? I don't see it. I don't know.
Oh, I sent that to Bill Outhouse only. Sorry, Bill. Bill already has my email.
Well, Bill, just in case you wanted to connect again. Well, Bill, I'm glad to see you on here, though. It was great. You guys, thank you very much for participating and joining. I'm really excited about future collaboration and being able to support. If there's anything that we can do to support you and your students, we'd love to. I'd love to be able to use this as a platform to really highlight what everybody else is doing. And then, of course, being able to share data, as we get our seed trial data, completed and information out, we'd love to be able to collaborate there and help boost the industry. I think just like you said, we're really seeing people to come together and self-regulate and rise all tides. So Joanne and Kayla, anything you guys would like to add before we sign off?
I just want to say again, for people who weren't on maybe in the beginning, make sure that you come hang out with us at NOCO 8 in Denver in March. We are sponsoring this amazing awards banquet, as Joanne mentioned earlier. We are so excited. Get your nominations in. Because there's a lot to go through already. We just opened nominations up. So get those in. We're very, very excited for those. And even if you're not here, people can accept awards remotely if they're really just the right person for that. And so if you're somebody who can't travel due to travel restrictions, but somebody wants to nominate you, feel free to let them nominate you. We're excited to see you all there virtually or in person.
Stop by our booth. So not just the banquet, but stop by our booth and check it out. We've got some great things in store for that. But I just wanted to add thank you, Danielle and Heather. That was an amazing presentation. Really appreciate that and all the great information. And thank you to our members. I see a lot of them in the chat participating. Again, thank you. Thank you for joining. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. And one more thing you just reminded me, we're giving away a tiny home, you guys. So you get to enter to win, and then you play a game, and there's a tiny home on the other end of this. And so when you say stop by our booth because we're doing some cool things, like that's one of the cool things we're going to be doing at
Do we
NoCo.
undersell ourselves a little bit, Mandy? Like,
This is actually really, really cool that we've got some awesome members that have helped support and put this together for us. And so this is, yeah, a great way to bridge these industries. So thank you, Heather and Daniela. I hope to see you guys soon and shake your hand. I'll come out to your edge of the country here soon. But thank you, Klaus. It's good to see you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I sure appreciate your time. Thanks for all your support, you guys. Did Kayla already sign off? Joanne, great job. Thank you for everything.
Great.
For those of you that don't know Joanne, reach out to her. She's awesome. Jeremy, let's you and I connect again here soon. Joshua, it's good to see you.
Yeah, we have a lot to discuss. It's been
Okay,
a while,
good.
so looking forward to catching up. But
Good. We've got your group.
Daniela, Heather, thank you so much. Yeah,
We've got you guys scheduled to present for our next carbon meeting about your X price, what you're doing. So I'm excited about that.
I think Bruce did that. I don't remember saying I would do that, but
Jeremy, I sent you my email.
perfect. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mandi,
let's
I
go.
wanted to speak with you again because I actually have some new stuff coming up that
Sure.
I'm really excited about, but unfortunately, I have some political issues that I have to deal with first. So,
Yeah, I
foreign
would like,
governments aren't
Sure.
too keen on me coming over yet, but I'm really excited. Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you soon. So
yeah.
I'll
I
be
would
back
love to
on the
hear what
radar.
you're working on. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's faces again more. So,
sure.
but
Nice
I gotta
meeting
hop
you.
off. Everyone have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to all of you soon.
You too. Have a good evening, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daniela, Heather. Thank you.
Awesome. Joshua, I'd love to introduce, if you're on, I'd love to, if you have a mic. Josh, I'm speaking to you, sir. I see you looking. Aha.
Unmute here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Karen.
Hello.
How are you? Yeah,
Okay.
I'd love to hear what you.
Got company in the background.
Okay. Yes, she was downstairs actually, so she came up here. This is Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi,
How are you?
Bonnie.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah.
We
Seems-
made a
seems
lot of progress
you're
this week.
having fun in DC there.
We've made a lot of progress. We've met a
Good.
lot of people, so it's been good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would love to hear about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, yeah, we have some good news about some of the research, I think.
yeah. Let's do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Josh, I need to cut you off.
Oh, that's all right. Hey, I like the discussion. Everybody's seems to be headed the right direction with knowledge, data, research. Was really looking to hear something about the fiber side of things, but that's kind of more what I was interested in, the textile industry, and hoping to see it move forward soon.
Yeah.
So,
It is moving forward, I feel. I mean, I'm sorry, as for me, I wanted to work with fiber, with bioplastics, and that was one of the reasons why, and especially the sex part in cannabis was what drew my attention, and that's why I started working. Like, how can you have males, females, hermaphrodites? What's going on? That was really the thing. But my research was funded by the private industry that wanted me to work in cannabinoids. And so I started working in cannabinoids, and then I fell in love. I love those little genes, and then that happened. However, I feel that there's a lot of traction right now. Right now in New York State, they are very interested in fiber. There are people that are growing fiber. There are people that are interested in doing a hempcrete and in creating a construction material with fiber. So that is happening. It's not as big of a boom, as the cannabinoids, because because, you know, everyone thinks that marijuana is gonna get you money tomorrow, which we know it's not true, but that is happening, I feel. So we will have more information for you in the near future, I feel.
Okay.
We were speaking today to somebody that was talking about the consortium or group that you're part of that's very fiber focused. And Josh, we host 8 to 12 of these a month around different topics. I'll be sure to send you some invites to some very fiber focused topics. And then we are doing national fiber variety trials for this reason, this specifically. So I'd love to chat with you more about it and make some intros if you'd like, but I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'd like that.
You're looking to dive into also. We could probably help guide conversation that way also.
Okay. Yeah, we're snowed in at the moment, so
Tell me
not
what
a lot going on.
Tell me what you do. Tell me what your role in the industry is.
I have actually worked for a company. It's a cooperative, working with farmers around Indiana and Michigan, and we do agronomy, and I specifically work at a seed hub. So we intake, logistics, and do mainly seed work here.
Awesome.
We've got several knowledge plots and data research plots. So that's another thing that goes on springtime, other than deliveries and getting everybody their seed that they want. But I've got a lot of interest here in the Indiana, Illinois side. So I'm right on the border of Indiana and Illinois, right in the middle of the state. So yeah, I've just kind of been touching base, following the industry since about 2014 now. And I've got my neighbors planning to grow this year, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I haven't dove into it yet because there's nowhere to go with it. So he seems to think that he's got a few connections that he's made along the line. So I'm happy to see where it goes and go from there.
We would love to help make some connections for you. That's yes. People in our group and Daniela, I saw your mic come off. Go ahead.
No, she's for real. Like if there's someone that makes connections, it's her. Like, and I don't think that side of my screen because she's there in my screen, but that's for real. I am an Indiana alumni. I went to Bloomington, Indiana. IU. Go Hoosiers.
I wouldn't say that too loud where you're at.
And my husband's a Michigander, so I know that area pretty well.
That's awesome. Well, but in all seriousness, we're happy to connect with you. If you want to reach out to Joanne, we can definitely send out some connections. There's people on our research committee that are up in your area that have supply chains worked out that, would definitely be able to support, especially if you've got acreage.
And just to throw out that if you want to become a member, we have a platform called Hemp Hallway, and we have this really cool feature in Hemp Hallway that allows you to search for people that are industry professionals based on location, so you can find out who's near you and also make additional contacts there. So just want to throw that out there.
I did member up, I think today or yesterday. Sorry.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Heather.
I wanted to ask a follow-up question to Josh about, given like your unique position in the industry and the growers that you have been in communication with, what are they most concerned about right now? Is it supply chain issues in terms of like making sure that they can sell their crop once they grow it? Or is it issues around cultivar selection and incorporating hemp into rotations or no-till or different what kind of fertility regimes do we need to be thinking about? Like what's come up for you in those conversations?
Good question.
Yeah, mainly supply chain, the logistics part of it. There's, being where we're at logistically, we're in the middle of nowhere. So we're looking at hours of driving to get the plants processed. And this is mainly on the fiber side. Mm-hmm. The ones that I've talked to that are actually doing like cold press seed oil operations, like keeping it on the farm, that's more a specialty thing that those guys, it's already integrated into their crop system, whether they're doing sunflowers or canola or something of that sort. And yeah, the soil health and where the plants are growing and what to use on the plants, what they can use as far as weed suppression and how do they prepare the field prior to all that. Really, I mean, it's all came up. The no-till, like, is in a no-till practice, these guys aren't wanting to go in and till their land to try to grow this seed. So will it emerge, in a no-till environment? That one just came up last week. So yeah, all that's it's like just baby steps. Nobody's really wanting to go right into it financially, not knowing the outcome. So it's all just smaller test plots and trial and error and that sort of thing.
Mandi, do you have any insight on what the best practices are for no-till hemp in Iowa? Is that where you're based?
Yeah, in Iowa, really not much of hemp practices is going on. Mostly, they are focusing on corn and soybean. But for any crop, the limited condition, especially in the Midwest, if you practice no-till, you are dealing with the hydrology of the soil, because most of the soil are poorly drained soil and cold soil temperature during the early spring. That's when you start planting your crop. But there is significant technology improvement, which is you could overlay with these different crops. I conducted large studies across the whole state to look into different tillage practices, look into drainage system implementation and how that be incorporated to encourage farmers to use no-till. So hemp is not going to be any different from any crop if you want to integrate it in the crop rotation to have the right condition in the field, and namely to have a good drainage system. Indiana is the same like in Iowa, the soil condition, the drainage condition, and also the cold weather temperature. It's affect more corn than soybean. This is why they delay soybean until June to plant it, comparing to corn. So with the hemp, I'm interested in Josh' take on it. Probably he left, he's still there. If you do any trials in Indiana, have you done any variety evaluation in your companies for different varieties, cultivars of hemp for special for fiber?
Personally, no. The Purdue University, they've been working closely with a hemp specialist that they have, and they do trials and field days and that sort of thing. This whole COVID thing kind of put a stop on the field days, so we haven't been able to go out there the past couple of years to kind of but they do have a database that we can get on and look at the different trial results. So that's a plus. And they've got a Midwest Hemp Council as well here. That's local. So that's something that's also, they've got a pretty good database and a lot of knowledge floating around that organization for fiber trials. So we're still doing, trying to do everything by the book and not waste too much money.
Yeah, these with the variety trial with the GHA, which is really, it's got a new project. That's the first project GHA is taken over. And that's basically to evaluate almost approximately 10 different varieties to look into in different environment within the country. So we're looking at northern tier of the states and look at the east, west coast, and look at the central part of the country, and we look at the southern part. So within that screening process, to use the same protocol, to use the same actually experimental design to screen these different cultivars to look at the performance. I think my colleagues, Daniela and Heather, knew that any crop, really the limiting factors or the influencing factors is going to be genetics, by environment, by management. So these three components is going to affect the performance of these crops. So the idea is we trying to create a database that Mandi was telling you about, and that database we're going to share it also with the industry, with the membership, and also work closely with the universities like Cornell, our two colleagues, to exchange ideas and research ideas and data, to share data. And I think that's the only way to make an informed decision for the farmers to select any varieties. And I think there is a lot of work to be done in the breeding side, actually in the fiber or seed production. And that is still really in the very initial stages. So I think it required a lot of collaboration between the industry and different interests, whether seed production or fiber production, to advance, and with academia and USDA to really bring changes and accelerate the adoption of hemp at large.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Collaborating is and sharing and being transparent is key.
Right. So reach out to Mandi and she could give you more information, update, and we would love to expand our collaboration as a research committee with the different entities, universities, industry. That's the only way to understand this new crop. It's really critical if we look at the climate change and other issues, which is my interest at large. I work with the soil carbon dynamics and how we look into the greenhouse gas emission mitigation, incorporate that crop into the cropping system and encourage farmers to use it as another, additional value, to their farm too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I membered up here just I think it was yesterday. So you'll be seeing more of me around.
Sure.
I wanted to hop on here and check it out and
I do see you did join. So yes, thank you. You should have received an email that has some information. My email's in there as well. if you'd like to schedule some time for us
Okay.
to walk through some of the benefits and that you get, and also through the hemp hallway, I'm more than happy to, but reach out anytime. And welcome.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm glad you did, and very nice meeting you. Looking forward to hear from you more. If you need anything, just reach out.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a good evening.
You too.
Have a good night, everybody.
Guys.